Today's PowerPoint, as you may have guessed from the pictures at the front, the lovely lady doing her gym work and the hamburger with a tape measure around it, is healthy eating, in particular diet, a lifestyle choice of diet. If you're a little bit like me, you may have found actually the diet has been a little bit tougher during lockdown. For example, you might be popping to those cupboards a little bit more often than normal to go and get a biscuit or a packet of crisps. However, a well-balanced diet is one that contains all the nutrients in the right proportions, so not too much fat, not too many carbohydrates. And diet's a lifestyle choice. You make the decision on how much you are going to eat. Eating too little or too much might make us less able to take all the opportunities that life offers. So if we eat too much and become obese, we may not be able to, for example, fit on theme park rides. We may not be able to run for a bus. We may not be able to fit in all the clothing that we'd like. On the other hand, if we eat too little, that can have some serious consequences to our health as well as obesity. So being underweight can cause us to be fatigued, it can cause us to feel unwell, and again, clothes become ill-fitting. Being overweight has many consequences. You're more prone to illness. You have your life expectancy reduced. Your heart's having to work a lot harder to pump that blood around. You may be less able to exercise effectively, which helps you to have a healthy heart. You may miss out on learning experiences because you've been ill or unwell. You may miss out on sporting activities. Obviously, you will find it a little bit harder if you've got a more fat and body weight to carry around with you to be able to keep up with other people, such as playing a game of tennis or going for a jog. You might be less successful in job interviews. People can be very cruel and prejudiced and discriminate against those people who are overweight, as they may see them as lazy or more prone to illness and more likely needing time off work. Being overweight, you may feel more embarrassed and self-conscious about your appearance. You may try to cover up more. You might not wear a bikini or a swimming costume. You might not even want to go swimming because you're embarrassed about your body. So there's lots of consequences and impacts of being overweight. So it's important to have a balanced diet. An overweight or an underweight person could try to control their weight through a balanced diet. So making sure they're eating the correct quantities of food. The essential parts of a healthy balanced diet are fats, carbohydrates, minerals, vitamins and proteins. We also need to consume the right amount of food and fluids each day. It's important that we keep our fluid uptake, such as water or squash, in order that we don't become dehydrated. So we have something called the Eat Well Guide that tries to advise us on the correct amounts we should be eating. We should be having at least 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day. Realistically and truthfully, that's not accurate. It should be more than 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day. However, the government believe that that would actually put people off having it too high, so they say 5, but it should be much higher. You should base your meals on starchy foods like potatoes, bread, rice or pasta, preferably whole grain or wholemeal varieties to give more fibre. Having more fibre gives them the ability to be able to push more, to go to the toilet, and this should make up about 1/3 of what we eat each day. Each day we need to have some dairy, but lower fat varieties, so semi-skim milk instead of full fat. Eat some beans, oily fish, eggs, meat and other proteins, which also contain vitamins and minerals. Eat small amounts of oils and spreads, most of it unsaturated, and drink plenty of fluids. Reduce our intake of food and drinks high in saturated fat, salt and sugar. So our drinks shouldn't be lattes with syrups. It shouldn't be full fat Coke. It should be trying to reduce those sides of our diet to make sure we haven't got too much sugar and fat. The government believes after COVID-19 lockdown that there will be a massive increase in obesity nationwide. and you can see the reasons why that's happened. Out of sheer boredom, people will often go and eat, not because they're hungry, but because they're bored. And food that we eat affects the way that we feel and look. So if we eat more than we need, obviously, and we're not exercising enough, so we're eating but not exercising enough, we're going to gain weight, which can lead to obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, strokes, tooth decay, cancer and type 2 diabetes. Lots of people forget about the impacts of a bad diet on the teeth, but eating food that's high in sugar is definitely going to damage those teeth. There are not many positives, as you can see, from eating too much. As well as eating too much, I think it's really important to brush on eating too little. If we eat less than we need, so the body does not get enough nutrients to grow and develop, it really has an impact on the way that we grow and develop. A disorder that you can get from not eating enough and believing that you're fat when you not actually are, so body dysmorphia, is anorexia. You can also suffer with anemia. You could suffer with, so that's not enough white blood cells. You could suffer from stunted bone growth, heart failure either if you're obese or too thin, depression, tiredness, cancer and rickets. So there are quite a few aspects that could affect you physically and mentally if you eat too little. To help measure obesity in children, there is something called the National Child Measurement Programme, the NCMP. It's voluntary. It covers nationwide, so across the country, and it measures children in reception and in year 6. So across England, 96% of children in reception and 94% of children in year 6 were measured, which is huge. It's a really large sample. And they're actually checking to see what is the weight of children like across the country. Are children growing in size? Is there more cases of obesity, or are they at a healthy weight? So in West Sussex, participation rates were slightly lower, with 90% of children in reception and 91% of children in year 6 measured. To help you understand what happens to all the data that they gather from the National Child Measurement Programme, you can see here we have the 2014-15 results. On the top tables, top graphs is the reception children, and in the bottom graphs is year 6. If you have a look at the left hand side for both, that's Crawley. That's our Crawley results, and on the right hand side that's how you compare it against West Sussex, the southeast of England and England. As you can see, in 2014 to 2015, childhood obesity is below average compared to West Sussex, southeast and England. So it was healthy. It wasn't as childhood obesity wasn't such an issue. However, when you get to year 6, you can see it's above average. There's higher cases of childhood obesity compared to West Sussex, South East England and England. So it's above average, and it means that Crawley has a high, in 2014 to 2015, had a high amount of childhood obesity in years 6. Now that you've listened to the PowerPoint, it's really important that you go back and you take those notes on each slide. Make sure that you're writing them down on a piece of A4 paper or in your books if possible. If you write them down on A4 paper, make sure that they are collated and popped into a file. It's really important that you keep these notes because they are going to be required for when we come back for revision. You will need these notes for your exam. If you're interested about what's been done about obesity in the UK, you could have a look at the 2 YouTube clips that I've put down here. One is actually about trying to get children to stop snacking and cutting down on snacks, make sure that you have 2 100-calorie snacks a day, which actually is really difficult as a parent to try to enforce and to find snacks that are 100 calories apart from fruit. what it's like to be Britain's fattest man, so you can see how obesity affects someone intellectually, physically, emotionally and socially. And all these aspects, if you watch that clip, it's really important to see how it affects the pies, because these are the type of questions that are going to turn up in your exam. So go through, write your notes, make sure you can read them if you go back and need to revise them, and then watch the second PowerPoint, and then there'll be a quiz. Right, good luck, enjoy. Hope you're all well.